Welcome back to another episode of the Amateur Hour podcast. Nico is joining me once again.
How you doing, Jacob?
And my name is Jacob. We'll be bringing more NHL content. We're going to do some early award predictions for the NHL. We're going to go through Hart Trophy, the Norris Trophy, the Vezina, the Calder, and the Jack Adams. We're going to do those five in that order.
Maurice Richard?
We can
Top goal scorer?
We can do the Rocket Richard.
Yeah.
We'll do the Rocket Richard as well. I mean, pretty conclusive, I think. But
I don't think it's conclusive.
Okay.
I don't agree with you.
But let's get there. We'll throw in the Rocket Richard after the Calder, in between Calder and Jack Adams. Jack Adams will be last. But we'll do those six. We'll start off with the Hart Trophy, given to the, by definition, most valuable player to his team. And I think that definition doesn't always go with the winner. I think they typically go with the best player in the league, even if they aren't the most valuable to their team. But last year it was Nikita Kucherov. I think he was the best suitor for that award. This year, though, I think it has to be Connor McDavid. And he's leading the NHL in points right now. He's one above teammate Leon Draisaitl. 19 goals, 36 assists. I mean, it's pretty absurd what he's putting up right now.
Yeah.
What do you think for the Hart Trophy?
Honestly, I think somebody who's tight with him, and I think that potentially could kind of upset him, is Nathan MacKinnon. I think Nathan MacKinnon is not a bad shout at this at all. I think what has Connor McDavid over Nathan MacKinnon right now is the fact that Edmonton is so good. Edmonton, I believe, is still in first place right now.
They are first in the Pacific.
Mm-hmm. And what do you...
As of at the day recording, because they are tied on points.
Do you know where Colorado is?
Colorado is second in the Central. They're 1 point back of the St. Louis Blues, who have played 2 more games. Mm-hmm. So right at the top of the Central.
And that's the thing. I think Nathan MacKinnon is almost as influential as Connor McDavid is to the Edmonton Oilers, as Nathan MacKinnon is to the Colorado Avalanche, which is why I think, honestly, depending on who finishes first or who finishes in a higher spot, plus like the difference in point tally, I do think Connor McDavid's going to end up with more points than Nathan MacKinnon.
He's
Nathan
well
MacKinnon
above him right now.
He's 8 points ahead of him right now.
Yeah.
And I don't really see Nathan MacKinnon catching up with 8 points here, because I honestly think Connor McDavid's going to drop 120 points, if not more, this season. Mm-hmm. Nathan MacKinnon, I think, will also reach over 100, but that's besides the point. I think those are the two guys that are going to be very keen in on as far as who's going to win the Hart Trophy. If I'm kind of basing it off who finishes first, I know some people are going to be like, what about Brad Marchand or Pasternak? I just don't think, that's probably the best line in hockey, but I think those guys all work as one unit type thing, where Pasternak, Marchand, and Bergeron are just a great one unit team, while Connor McDavid is just...
he throws that team.
He just throws his team on the back. Obviously, he has some support from Leon Draisaitl, who again shouldn't necessarily be taken out of this conversation, but everybody knows it's McDavid's
The problem is he competes with McDavid, and he's under more of a competition with McDavid because they play on the same team. Mm-hmm. So, if you're not the best player on your team, how can you be the best player in the league?
And that's why I think he kind of gets pushed out of that conversation for that reason, which is why I honestly think the only competitor is Nathan MacKinnon. But if you were to ask me today who's going to win the Hart Trophy, I'm going to say Connor McDavid.
I think Connor McDavid as well. Draisaitl, I don't understand how he's not in any sort of discussion for this category. And again, it's probably because he's competing with a teammate. Mm-hmm. But McDavid, how much value do you put on team success in this conversation?
It's kind of a weird kind of thing to bring up. It really depends on the team. It really depends on the lines you play with. I know how weird that sounds, but I think there's so many little variables that go into it. I think there was one year that Connor McDavid dropped, 100 points. I can't remember what it was, but I'm pretty sure he ended up losing the Hart Trophy to... I'm not 100% sure. Let me check on that very quickly.
Well, last year he didn't win.
Who won it last year?
Kucherov.
But
who also was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Even that Kucherov one was a little bit weird, but I understood because he was a ridiculous player. But yeah, this doesn't even tell me. So last year was Kucherov.
Well, what you said, McDavid. McDavid won the Hart in 2016-17 with 100 points. The next year, he put up 108 points, but he was 5th in Hart Trophy rankings. Mm-hmm. Last year, he was 3rd in the rankings. He put up 116 points, but bested by the 120 that Nikita Kucherov put up. But the other 2 years, he had the most points in the NHL.
So and it was like they didn't make the playoffs either one of those 2 years. And I think that's literally
part of it.
Yeah, and that's part of it. So if your team doesn't make the playoffs, I think the league looks at it as, you know what, you may have been the most influential or most influential player on your team?
Most valuable.
Most valuable player on your team, but your team didn't make the playoffs, so you're kind of out of it. Like,
so I think
that's kind of how the league looks at it.
Part of it as well is you're not necessarily competing against your NHL colleagues, you're competing against yourself. And I think when McDavid put up 100 points and got the Hart Trophy, and then the next year he put up 108, but was 5th in the voting, even though he led the NHL in points again. I think it was because, well, you didn't really get better, and your team didn't get better. So the competition was against his past self, not necessarily his
I think that's the constant thing you have to look at is it's how your team performed last season.
But now I think it's been a few years since then. By the way, Connor McDavid was 20 when he won that Hart Trophy. How fucked is that? But the current 23-year-old, Jesus Christ. I lost my train of thought. Oh, because they're succeeding, because it's been a while since he won the Hart Trophy, he's more inclined to get the votes for that. And I think
considering how his team looked last year to this year,
look, it's because of him and Draisaitl that they're first in Pacific. This is not a tremendous roster that they got.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is why I think. So the question you asked me was, does it depend on how your team does in the season? I think it's yes, but I also think the big thing is that it depends on how your team was last year compared to this year. So that's why I think it's almost Connor McDavid, no question, because although Colorado did finish in a wild card spot last year, and they're obviously performing significantly better this year than last year, Connor McDavid is bringing his team that didn't even make the playoffs last year to a current first place spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, sure, they may drop, who knows, but they won't drop out of the playoffs. And I honestly don't think they'll drop out of the top 3 in their division, which is why, in that sense, he's the most valuable player to his team. Only second to Nathan MacKinnon.
I think as well this year is going to be a case where...
Only second is Nathan MacKinnon.
Yeah. I think this year is going to be a year where the most valuable player on their team is also the best player in the league, Connor McDavid. Draisaitl is up there, but I think McDavid offers just a little bit extra than Draisaitl in terms of talent, skill set, and whatnot. I'm not again, you gotta be picky for this. No disrespect to Draisaitl, amazing player. He should be in this discussion, even though he's not. We're putting him in the discussion, but McDavid, I think, is just that extra step better than Nathan MacKinnon.
Draisaitl finishes with more points than Connor McDavid. What do you say?
It'd be so difficult to give it to
Draisaitl.
Yeah,
not McDavid.
It'd be so difficult because, just eye test, I guess. I mean, they're both clearly amazingly skilled, incredibly talented, but just because that extra little bit of skill that I think that McDavid possesses, I think that's where it's gonna have to go.
Just to sort of put some perspective on this, the betting odds for Hart Trophy favorites in the top 1, 2, 3, 4, about 8, Draisaitl's not in it.
That's absurd.
It's crazy. It has Connor McDavid, then Pasternak, then McKinnon, then Brad Marchand.
I agree, Pasternak's in the discussion.
Patrick Kane, Nikita Kucherov, Austin Matthews, Evgeny Malkin, Alex Ovechkin.
I think it's Draisaitl's got to be in your top 4. Anybody's top 4 should be in any order: McDavid, McKinnon, Pasternak, because of how many goals he's scoring, and Draisaitl. But Draisaitl's arguably top 3 in that. There's no way he shouldn't be in the discussion. I just think
it's crazy how he just
McDavid
gets pushed aside, and it's just unfortunate that as great as he is, and I know it sounds like it sucks towards him, but he's in Connor McDavid's shadow, and obviously that's a very big shadow to be behind, and obviously the numbers still show that he's ridiculous. I think he's been consistently one of the most underrated players in the NHL. People just don't give him.
I mean, that stat alone that he's not in the top 8.
I know
it's this guy's 54 points
only behind McDavid, who has 55.
He's played 33 games. He has 54 points, and like he could very well finish with more points than Connor McDavid. This is absurd. Like these guys are like arguably the best 2 guys in hockey right now because it's not like they play together. They play with not scrubs, but like McDavid plays was
they're not
was
the most
Zach
talented players
Kassian, and Draisaitl plays with Nugent Hopkins, and they're carrying their lines. Like they could literally make a first line caliber line in hockey, and there's two guys who can do that on the same team. It's ridiculous. Like these guys are arguably the top 2 in the NHL. Like I think they should both be in the top 3 for voting. Like they should be both finalists at this point. But I mean, I think we're conclusive. Like this is Connor McDavid. Let's move on. Let's move on. We talked a lot. Let's go to the Norris Trophy. I think it's pretty open shut, to be honest.
You think it's John Carlson?
I think John Carlson is put himself well above other candidates. Like other names I have down, Victor Hedman, Dougie Hamilton, to be honest, is even putting up great numbers, and Shea Weber. Those are the only guys really on the radar for me. I mean, could you put Cale Makar in this discussion?
That's actually an interesting thing to bring up.
I don't have him here, but I'm just thinking about it. Do you think it's possible to put him in the discussion?
No. Not this year. I don't think so. Best defenseman in the league?
I think I'm not saying like at the top. I'm saying is he, a name that you can mention in this?
Like to like a very small extent, you can kind of say yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. I didn't write him down. I'm just speculating.
I guess you can kind of bring it up, but I don't know. I wouldn't really have him as much of a competitor.
Who do you have?
Although it's not really fair to me to say, considering I said he was going to break the rookie record and he's going to reach what was it, 70?
Well, he's on pace for
77 points.
He's just under a point per game, right?
Yeah. So I guess you can kind of have him in the conversation. It's just that I think there's such a big gap right now between every other defenseman and John Carlson.
Yeah, you agree it's pretty open shut?
That it's pretty open shut. Like it would have to take a very poor stretch of games from John Carlson and a pretty insane stretch of games for really any other defenseman to really catch up to him, which is why I think it's pretty shut. I think Dougie Hamilton was a good one. Roman Josi is pretty solid too.
True.
Because Roman Josi sort of, again, I'm not saying that John Carlson doesn't offer something on both sides of the ice, but it's just that Roman Josi is, I think, more solid defensively than John Carlson. And I think that's sort of where you can make that argument type thing. But even then, I don't know. It's just kind of pointing at other defensemen that are good, but I don't think there's anybody that's going to... Just the numbers that John Carlson has right now, people won't catch up to him. It's pretty insane as a defenseman, and that's why it's just pretty shut, I think.
I completely agree. We'll move next to the Vezina. This is where there's a lot of potential for candidates. And I think, if you gave it right now, it would probably be Darcy Kemper.
Yes.
9.35 save percentage, 1.96 goals against. He's 2 shutouts. There are guys kind of nipping at his heels in those stats. He's not the top in the NHL in those stats, by the way. I'll have more on that. I think that Ben Bishop or Tuukka Rask will win it because I think that the Coyotes are bound to drop off at some point, and thus Darcy Kemper will drop off a little bit. Ben Bishop was probably 3 days ago my pick. He might still be, but just because of the uncertainty with the coaching there, you might kind of go, okay, well, maybe not for Ben Bishop. But Tuukka Rask, I mean, because Boston is so dominant in the NHL, it just bodes well for his stats. Like, it definitely bodes well for his stats. But I think I'm going to stick with Ben Bishop. He's got a 9.34 goals against, 2.03 or 94 save percentage, 2.03 goals against. He has 1 shutout in the 22 games he's played. But a dark horse for this award. Do you know who Tristan Jarry is?
Yes.
He has a 9.38 save percentage, a 1.92 goals against average. Both of those are the NHL leading. He has 2 shutouts in his 12 games played, and he just set the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise record for shutout streak, 177 minutes.
Yeah, I saw that. Do you know who broke it? Montreal Canadiens. God bless
against
yourself.
Montreal. But did they win that game?
They won that game.
They still won, even though he broke the record. They still won that game.
Whoa. Who won that game? Montreal won that game.
Yeah. Even though Montreal won the game, Tristan Jarry broke the record.
Broke the record.
Well, he broke Thomas Vokoun's record of 173 minutes.
Vokoun.
This guy, who has never really been an NHL goalie, just in and out of the league, This is the kind of narrative that we've seen in the past, where like the first time goalie all of a sudden takes off, like Jordan Binnington. This is kind of, I'm getting those kind of vibes off it, where they're gonna be unbelievable after stepping up from the AHL. And my prediction for Jordan Binnington, I never said on record, was it's the classic case where, you know, the AHL goalie has one good year, then he falls off.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
clearly I'm wrong. What was the guy on Ottawa? Hammond?
Yeah.
That I was like, this is just another Hammond. And I mean, he's
proving you wrong. Yeah.
Proving me wrong, and he won the Stanley Cup last year. So hey, keep going with your .921 save percentage, 2.45 goals against. But I think Tristan Jarry has the potential to prolong this. Not saying that he's going to maintain such incredible numbers, because he had the shutout streak.
Yep.
But I think he's a dark horse if he can continue like this.
I think a dark horse is Freddie Anderson.
Yeah.
I think that's one guy who...
He's been unreal lately.
Did you see him against Vancouver?
Yeah.
My buddy Ryan was talking about it. Apparently he saved 3 or 4 breakaways in the third period. And that's insane. Like,
he
incredible.
was crazy. I did an episode on the NHL's most underrated players, and I said Freddie Anderson is arguably top 5 in the NHL, but he's definitely top 10 in the NHL in terms of goalies. Was it you or was it
Clarkson?
Clarkson.
No, don't talk.
You said he's top 10. Clarkson was like, there's no way he's top 10.
He's top 10. And
But I got a lot of shit for saying Freddie Anderson's underrated, because everybody's like, like people don't understand Freddie Anderson's good. I'm like, no, you understand he's good. You don't understand how good this guy is.
He's consistently should be in Vezina talks.
That is what I said.
Yeah, and I agree with you. That's why I agree with you that he is underrated.
And I'm just upset. I'm not upset at you, Nico. I'm just upset that everybody gave me shit for this. But look at him. Look at the way he's been playing. And he's a guy where,
and he started off slow. To be fair, he started off slow.
But like the stats don't do the complete justice.
He has
for Anderson.
15 wins in 25 games played. He has a 2.48 goals against.
By the way, leads the NHL in wins. Just putting that out.
Okay. He's tied with Connor Hellebuck. Just letting that also be out. And
there's good stats here.
He's a .921 save percentage.
Yes.
Yes, .921 save percentage.
And 248 goals against average.
And I'm pretty sure he's faced the most shots in the NHL. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, he's probably up there. Toronto give up a lot of shots, and they were giving up a lot of shots earlier in the season with Babcock. But like this, every year he should be in the discussion, and he isn't. And I know last year was a slight drop off from the year before, where he was in the Vezina discussion. He wasn't a finalist, but he should have been a finalist 2 years ago. And I think this year he could be a dark horse as well.
Have you talked about Connor Hellebuck yet?
No.
He's another one that we should really be talking about. I think he's the... if anything, I see sort of Ben Bishop kind of numbers dropping, because, I mean, Ben Bishop and Darcy Kemper keeping a goals against average throughout the whole year. I mean, if they do, wow, it's incredible. That's a really tough fight to choose who's going to be
best. That's
what
what I'm saying. Tuukka Rask might even be in the discussion.
Yeah, but that's what I think. Connor Hellebuck with a 2.24, 0.933 goals against average is numbers that, honestly, I can see him keeping out throughout the rest of the season. I really don't see Ben Bishop and Darcy Kemper keeping those numbers. I mean, to be fair, the sample size is 22 games, so it's not like...
Yeah, I mean...
It's not to say that they can't do it. Like, obviously, they've shown that they're able to do it. I just do think they'll drop off. And I think a big reason for me saying the Darcy Kemper one will drop off is because I also believe Arizona is going to drop off.
That's what I've been saying.
And I believe Dallas will not necessarily drop off a little bit. They'll just allow sort of a little bit more goals.
That's what I think they'll stay where they are. I don't know if they'll change very much.
I don't think they'll change very much.
The coaching uncertainty all of a sudden changes the dynamic, right?
Which is why I think Winnipeg's in a good place, and I think Winnipeg's going to stay in that sort of similar area.
Yeah,
and I think Connor Hellebuck has shown that he's been solid this year, which is why, honestly, my favorite to win it is Connor Hellebuck.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have Connor Hellebuck winning the Vezina. Also because I honestly do think pretty highly of Winnipeg, even though Clarkson, I know is going to rip me for that one. But
yeah, I'm on the same page as you with Winnipeg. Clarkson was the guy who
he was totally against it. But like I believe in Winnipeg. I think they're a good team, and I don't really see why Connor Hellebuyck won't keep it up. And that's not me saying Darcy Kemper is going to all of a sudden have like a 4 goals against average. I think Darcy Kemper and Ben Bishop will consistently stay in this talk throughout the whole season. It's just I believe Connor Hellebuyck's going to win the Vezina.
It's not a hot take. I think I could reasonably see that. I think I'm going to stick with the Ben Bishop and then maybe Tuukka Rask take, but like I'm not counting out Hellebuyck. I'm not counting out Tristan Jarry to be like I mean
I'm not counting out any. I'm kind of counting out Tristan Jarry.
I mean I don't think I don't think that's gonna happen where he's gonna be up like in any sort of discussion. But right now I think like this has the potential to turn into something.
Yes.
But just thought I'd throw that name in there just because he's leading the league in save percentage and goals against average right now. Jordan Binnington's also a little bit behind, but if he picks up and other guys kind of decline, all of a sudden he could be that guy. But Ben Bishop and Tuukka Rask for me.
And then I have Connor Hellebuyck, and I'll say Ben Bishop for me.
Okay, we'll move on to the Calder. This is where it gets a little more open shut, I think.
Yes.
Cale Makar, you can't really argue with that.
I mean, man, if we're going off base what I talked about before, I think this guy's going to break the rookie defending scoring record. So
the point record.
It's
is that 78, I think, or 77? It's one of the two, and he's on pace to break it. Or he's on pace to tie it. So I mean,
could be wrong. I really could be wrong. But
is he injured, Cale Makar? Did he?
Yeah, I think
for a few games. That's big, by the way, because that could, in terms of the breaking the record, you need as many games as you can. But for Rookie of the Year, I mean, Quinn Hughes is. If I have to say other names, Quinn Hughes and Victor Olofsson, but like, not really. Shout out Ilya Mikheyev as well, maybe.
No. No. Put your hands down.
Just for the Leafs. Shout out. I'm just shouting out. I'm not saying he's in discussion. Shout out Mikheyev for being a good rookie.
All right, shout out Suzuki.
But Cale Makar. This is
Cale Makar. And if Cale Makar gets hurt, Victor Olofsson. That's all I'll say.
You don't think Quinn Hughes?
No.
Why not?
Just don't. It's just, I don't know. I think Victor Olofsson has played such a big part in Buffalo's sort of success this season. Not to say that Quinn Hughes hasn't played a big part in Vancouver's. Obviously, Vancouver's a pretty good team. But I just sort of see Victor Olofsson sort of having that sort of race. Just because you're kind of going to go one defenseman that's playing really good. And I think that defenseman's Cale Makar is your number one. And for some reason, I think if it's not going to be that defenseman, it's going to be a forward, and it's going to be Victor Olofsson.
Because Cale Makar is so much as the best defenseman. It can't be another defenseman instead of him. Okay, that's fair point. But move on for that, Cale Makar. I mean, you can't really argue that. Well, we'll go to the Maurice Richard, the Rocket Richard. This is for the highest goal scorer in the NHL.
You said that this one's pretty
I think Pasternak is going to stay above Ovechkin to win this award. Like, leading the NHL with 25. Ovechkin has, I believe, 21. Not far behind, but like the way Boston have been. I know the Capitals have been crazy. And I know that Ovechkin's insane on the power play, and that power play is insane with John Carlson, Backstrom, and Ovechkin. But I think Pasternak. I mean, we did an episode talking about him scoring. You and me said 60 goals. Jack was saying what Jack I think said like low 70s. You and me said he's gonna reach that plateau of 60. I don't necessarily see Ovechkin getting to 60. I can see him getting to about 50-something again. How do you feel?
See, this one's interesting. When I look at this, I kind of look back at what we said about Pasternak, and I'm not saying I'm going back on it. I still think he'll definitely reach close to 60. But even then, like I think it might be like 55. I think the scary part with Pasternak is that he constantly shows improvement. Well, yeah, Ovechkin's consistent. He's going to give you between 45 to 55 goals, but he's kind of reached that age where I don't see him going past that, which is why I think if Pasternak reaches, like, not even his max potential, the guy's like, 23, 24 years old? Like, if he reaches just that next step, I think Pasternak should win it, but I'm honestly going to go... I'm going to go off the table, and then this one's going to kind of sound weird to people. I'm going to say Leon Draisaitl. I think Pasternak might slow down. I think just looking at all the goal scorers, I'm also very high on Leon Draisaitl. I think that one's kind of a little bit of a favoritism pick.
Wow.
But just sort of just my hot take, because it is a hot take for sure.
Wow, that is a very hot take.
Yeah, I'm going to say Leon Draisaitl passes the both of them. He's at 19 goals right now, so I'll take 6 goals for him to catch up to Pasternak at this point in time that we're recording. But I think it'll go Draisaitl, Pasternak, Ovechkin.
Wow.
It's a little bit off the charts, and like it's a really hot take, and I understand that, and I will take all the heat that will come from me from that one.
Okay, well,
but
we'll see.
I feel like going off the charts with this
you've
one.
You've been right about Draisaitl when others weren't before.
Yeah, exactly.
You got some stories on that. Okay, I think Pasternak, but okay, we can see. I mean,
it's an interesting one.
That is.
You caught you off guard.
That caught me very off guard. I thought if anybody you'd say Ovechkin because you didn't think if you had doubts about Pasternak, but
I just think Draisaitl is young as sort of Pasternak, and I think Draisaitl has shown just how big of a goal scorer he is as well, and I think that's another underrated talent that people don't sort of respect from Draisaitl.
Yeah,
just how good his goal scoring is.
Absolutely. But Pasternak's got the best line in hockey playing with him. Draisaitl's got Nugent Hopkins and somebody. I think he's got like a scrub on left wing right now. I forget who he's got playing.
I don't even know,
but yeah, that's the difference for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, obviously, both their power plays are outstanding, but I'm going to stick with Pasternak, but we'll move on to the final award we're going to talk about, the Jack Adams, given to the best coach in the league. There are certainly a few names you could throw out. I think Barry Trotz is going to get this award based on what I've seen so far. I mean, the Islanders have been outstanding, and with that team that they have, it's got to be down to Barry Trotz, who is a Stanley Cup champion with the Washington Capitals a few years ago.
Yes. Yes.
The job that he's doing with this team and the player personnel that they have is unmatched. Because, I mean, you can remember Clarkson just in absolute awe thinking about this this team, this Islanders team performing the way they are, and you, Nico, have them winning that division.
Yeah.
I don't know if you still stick with that.
I do still stick with that.
They are a little bit adrift, but they have games in hand. But with the team that he has, this is unbelievable what he's doing. I don't think that you could argue Tippett with the Oilers, but I think it's Barry Trotz. What do you think?
I'm with you on that, honestly. I think my big thing is because of how well I think they are going to continue to do. I do have them winning. I think I had them winning.
You have them winning the Metro.
Yeah, I have them winning the Metro. Do I have them winning the whole conference? I'm not 100% sure. I probably did make a little bit of an argument for that. I think I said Boston, though. But
yeah.
But it's one of those things that I think it comes down to either so the New York Islanders, or even if the Arizona Coyotes continue to do as well.
I was thinking about
Rick, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but Rick Touchet.
I know who you're talking about.
I hope
the Arizona Coyotes coach.
Yes.
He's in the discussion for now.
Yes.
But we both think the Coyotes are not sustainable.
Mm-hmm. But that's why I do think that he should be considered in the conversation right now. I do think they're going to drop off, but if they don't, he should be one of the 3 candidates. And the third candidate I have is Bruce Cassidy for Boston. Mm-hmm. Because even if you look at how Boston has consistently sort of done, a huge part of it is because of their coaching staff.
Oh, yeah.
And I think one of the most underrated things about Boston is sure, their first line is arguably the best line in the NHL right now, but the other lines still go out there and perform. And a big reason for that is because the coach gets each and every one of their players to buy into their system. Yeah. And he does it consistently, no matter who's in the organization.
Every player on that team would go through a brick wall
for Bruce Cassidy. Yeah. And I think, honestly, just for the Bruins logo, I think there's just such a passion behind sports in Boston, New England. It's just it's crazy. But Massachusetts.
Yeah.
But it's just one of those things that I think it's going to come down to those 3 coaches. But I think Barry Trotz will come out with it.
We're pretty in agreement on all of these, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I'll run through mine. Just Hart Trophy, McDavid, Norris Trophy, Carlson, Vezina, Ben Bishop, Calder, Cale Makar, Rocky Richard, Pasternak, Jack Adams, Barry Trotz.
And then Hart, McDavid, Calder, Cale Makar, Vezina. I have Connor Hellebuck. What was the next one that we were talking
Norris.
about? The Norris. Which one's the Norris?
John Carlson.
There we go.
And then your Rocky Richard was
Leon Draisaitl. And then the Jack Adams, I had Barry Trotz.
And that will end off this episode. If you have any suggestions for future topics on the podcast, you can let us know at Amateur PDC on Twitter and Instagram, or in the comments on YouTube. If you're listening there, you can subscribe there. You can follow on Spotify. But as usual, the daily content keeps rolling through, even in exam season. I thought this would be the point where maybe I couldn't do an episode every day. But since September 20th, have not missed one single day, and it's going to continue in that way. Come back soon for more content.